Hey y'all, it's time for another book review. I got done with Theo of Golden by Alan Levi, and this may come as a surprise to a lot of people because I know this book was pretty popular, but this book was just okay for me. I did not love it nearly as much as people told me I would. So let me talk about the positives of this book first, and then we'll get to the negatives. So the positives are the themes in this book. Most of them are beautiful. This is a story of a man named Theo who comes to a southern town called Golden. He lives there for a year, and while he's there, he visits one of the local coffee shops and he sees portraits on the wall of local citizens done by a local artist. And he gets the idea, and it's a great idea. He's going to buy these portraits and gift them to the subject. So he's going to track people down and give them the portrait of themselves. And because of what he's doing, we get these wonderful themes of connection, friendship, family, taking care of the people around you, finding joy in art, music, and nature, and themes of hope in life after this one, and themes of showing people the good in themselves that they are unable to see. All of those themes are beautiful, and I can see why so many people love this book because of the messages that are in it. The messages of connection and putting people first and finding joy in life. Now let me talk about the negatives. And this part, there might be a few spoilers. Well, there will be a few spoilers. So if you want to read this book and you haven't yet, go ahead and scroll now. All right. If you're still here, I'm assuming you want to hear about the negatives. Let me talk about the negatives. I feel like this could have used a little more editing. There were parts that were too descriptive and parts that were not descriptive enough. The dialogue was at times very vague and cringy. Sometimes things seemed very trite and almost as if he was pandering to a particular audience. Those are, for me, kind of minor, but there were some other things that really bothered me about this story. And that is a couple of the themes that are introduced in this are not handled well. One of them being the theme of both mental illness and homelessness with the character of Ellen. That is very glossed over and not handled well at all. There's also mention of a child that was taken from her. And there's just the vaguest, hint at the end that there's going to be a reunion between Ellen and her child, but it's never actually told to us if they're reunited or not. Everything just gets very surface level treatment towards the end. The other theme that really bugged me that was brought up and then not handled well was the idea of DV. So at one point, Theo is to meet a young lady in the park and give her her portrait, and her very angry, very jealous boyfriend shows up instead and, spoiler, destroys the portrait. There is no concern in this book about the danger that young lady might be in. Theo is someone who was constantly helping the people around him, and not once does he stop to think about helping this young lady out of the situation that she's in. She is mentioned later, and there's a very, once again, surface level resolution to that story or that part of the story, but it did not feel very, very realistic to me, and it just kind of felt like the author didn't really know how to handle it well. But it also bugged me that particular scene, Theo's reaction to the destruction of the portrait is, he's very angry. And it makes it feel as though the portrait is more important than the person, which is the exact opposite of the message of this story, which is finding value and connection with people. So I really feel like that should have been edited and changed even just a little bit, because it is a contradictory message to the rest of this book. The last thing that bugged me about this book was the reveal at the end of why Theo was in town in the first place. So at the very beginning of the book, we're told repeatedly that he has an ulterior motive, but we're reassured constantly that he's a good guy. I did not need to be told that many times that he was a good man. I did not need to be reassured of that, and I didn't need to be, reminded that he had a motive for being there. You get to the end of the book and you find the motive and why he's there. It actually, to me, takes away from what he's been doing in the whole book of buying the portraits and giving them to people, because it made it feel very self-serving after this whole book of this man who was supposed to be very selfless. And so the ending didn't really sit right with me either. So that was just my opinion on it. If you loved it, I am glad that you did, because I really wanted to, but this was just barely okay for me.